close to nothing. So it's quite light. Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Horst Lüning. I'm the master taster of Whisky.com, and today we have a look at the Bushmills Original White Label. 40% ABV, pricing mid-tens, 15, 16, 17 euros, dollars, pounds. So it's cheap. It's really cheap. And unfortunately, in big letters in the back with color. Yes. What's the specialty of the Bushmills? Well, it's the only distillery working in Northern Ireland so far. I'm not quite sure. I think there's a smaller one, a craft distillery being built. But for decades, Bushmills had been the only distillery in Northern Ireland. And the specialty is they're producing malt whiskies on pot stills and grain whiskies on column stills. And most of the other distilleries in the Republic of Ireland, they use a mixture of malted and unmalted cereals during the mashing process. So here we have definitely a mixture of malt whiskey and grain whiskey. What are the grains? Typically the grains are wheat or is wheat, and it's cut into starch by heat and pressure, and not by enzymes, so fast lot throughput. And the malt whiskey is triple distilled, and therefore it's light as well as the column still whiskey is. How much malt whiskey is in it? No idea. It's not that expensive, so the amount of malt whiskey in this bottle has to be quite low. I guess 15 to 25%, something in between. Yes, more or less. Less is more probable than more. Okay, 40% ABV. It has a screw cap because of the low price of the whiskey. And I do not like those screw caps because they're from metal and there's a sealing, a plastic sealing in. And after some time, the plastic sealing or the metal is loses its strength and it gets loose, becomes loose or gets loose, and the alcohol vapors are able to pass the sealing, and after some time the level will drop, and then you turn again, and sometimes you overturn. And so I do not like those metal screw caps. The plastic are more stable. Yeah. Close to nothing, so it's quite light. And officially it's said with vanilla and spices. There's a light fruitiness, yeah. Fruitiness as you have in beer. So beer is the starting point for the production of whiskey, and this smells a little bit like a fruity beer without the hops in it. Yeah. And vanilla, not really much, and spices, not yet. Yeah. Light again on the tongue, and then bitterness kicks in. Definite part of oak shining through, and the aftertaste is not that long in terms of fruitiness or vanilla or whatever, but the bitterness stays on quite long. And this bitterness, in the beginning of my tastings, I thought the bitterness came from the grain. But typically, for the grain maturation, the grain has to mature as long as the malt whiskey in a blend matures. So there's no difference that you can say, I take a young grain and an old malt and then it's an old blend. No, the grain has to be the same age as the malt. And the grain whiskey is stored and stored and stored again in the same casks. So they keep it for 3 years and a day, and then they refill it with fresh another 3 years, and so on, for 30 years and even longer. And during that time, all of the vanilla, caramel, coconuts, and are sucked out, and what's left over, it's the tannins, the bitter tannins from the oak. Well, the bitterness in a blended whiskey is not that bad, because you quite often mix the whiskey with some fruit juice, some whiskey drinks, cocktails, whiskey coke. So in there you need this bitterness for showing that the whiskey is in. Otherwise you can pour vodka in it, no? So probably a little bit of vanilla shining through, but the smell is, compared to single malt whiskey, is quite light. Yeah. So Bushmills is producing single malt whiskies as well. The 10 years old, the 10 years old and the 16 years old. They're wonderful whiskies, and the 21 years old with a Madeira cask finish, just wonderful. But this one is for the mass market. It has to be cheap, easy drinking drinks. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned and feel free to share this video with your friends and add your comments to our whiskey database on Whisky.com. Thank you.